It's 4 o'clock. The top story is live on 7 News. America scrambles to recover a crashed plane as Iran's new leader speaks for the first time. The consumer watchdog asks fuel suppliers to explain the haphazard pricing. Western Sydney police searching for a gunman after two brothers were shot in Chester Hill. A key Blue Mountains road's been closed for months, leaving communities with one path through the mountains. And Broncos fans left scratching their heads. The Premier's 2 losses from 2 rounds in the NRL.
Live from Sydney, this is 7 News with Angie Asimus.
Good afternoon. A rescue operation is underway in western Iraq after 2 US jets collided with soldiers on board. Live to Jacqueline Robson in Tel Aviv. Jackie, do we know the fate of those soldiers?
Not yet, Angie, and there are real fears there could be casualties to come from this crash. The US Central Command has only released one statement acknowledging this event, saying that it did not happen in hostile fire, rather over friendly airspace. But we know that this was an American refuelling jet that has crashed in western Iraq. There was a second aircraft, also understood to be a refuelling jet, that was able to land safely back in Israel. But there is that search and rescue operation underway, believed to be at least 5 crew members on board. And this all comes, Angie, as a French soldier was killed in a drone attack. It is the country's first casualty of this war.
And Jackie, Iran's continuing to target ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes, Angie, and that was the main focus of the statement we heard from the new Ayatollah Moshtaba Khamenei. It is his first address since he was elevated to Supreme Leader just a number of days ago. His statement was read out on Iranian state TV. It wasn't him speaking, and we did not see his face, fueling the rumours that he may have been badly hurt earlier on in this war. Some suggest he was in a coma, others believe he may be dead. But the message was clear that this vital shipping lane, the Strait of Hormuz, will remain under Iranian grip so long as US and Israel continues with this conflict. There has been repeated strikes on vessels near the canal, oil facilities too, coming under intense attacks by Iran. The Ayatollah also used his address vowing revenge for the death of his father, the late Supreme Leader, and his own wife. He says the Gulf nations will continue to come under attack so long as they have US bases. Israel, meanwhile, is continuing its intense attacks on Hezbollah in Beirut. A new wave of attacks bringing large explosions. The Iranian-backed militia has been firing back too. We are now hearing sentiment that there may be Israeli troops wanting to move further into Lebanon from the south, with that ground invasion potentially imminent. Angie.
Jacqueline Robson live from Tel Aviv. Thank you. The consumer watchdog has issued a please explain to fuel companies, with the latest data showing widely varying prices for diesel and petrol in the capital cities since the Iran war broke out. Let's go to Josh Martin in Canberra. Josh, retail price rises have outstripped increases in wholesale prices.
Good afternoon, Angie. Prices at the petrol pump have increased by up to 18 cents per litre, more than wholesale prices in some locations around Australia. On 20 February, the daily average retail petrol price in Australia was $1.70 per litre. It's since shot up to $2.19 per litre on 11 March. That's an increase of 49 cents. At the same time, wholesale prices went up by just 41 cents per litre. Motorists in Perth are now paying the most per litre, $2.22 on average. Hobart the cheapest at $2.15 a litre. Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne are all at similar levels at the moment, but the ACCC says it will meet with petrol companies next week to demand answers, including 7-Eleven, Ampol, BP, Chevron, Mobil, United, Viva and EG Australia. The Energy Minister has also called out Australians selling jerry cans online and filling up with more than their regular needs.
Bunnings running out of jerry cans, going on Facebook Marketplace, selling fuel at inflated prices. That is un-Australian. It's dangerous. It shouldn't be done. I want Australians to have access to the fuel they need, not more, not less.
Until yesterday, it was all tickety-boo, no problems. By yesterday, it was a national crisis. I mean, the bloke's, he's hopeless. Get the supplies to the farmers and regional customers.
Angie, Minister Bowen is relaxing rules for fuel companies to allow them to get more diesel and petrol to regional areas. The Albanese government is lowering the amount importers and refiners of fuel need to hold by 20%, and it means there'll be a gradual release of an extra 762 million litres of fuel. In a fresh concern this afternoon for Australian airlines, there are reports China is stopping exports of jet fuel.
All right, Josh Martin, thank you. An investigation has been launched over the daylight dumping of piles of asbestos on a property in Sydney's southwest. Authorities are shocked. Chris Marr with more.
Well, an EPA investigation is underway into major illegal dumping on a private property here, with evidence some of the material may have come from an education department site. Over a dozen dumped piles of waste tipped in the Leppington property right near housing. Testing has confirmed asbestos in the material, along with bricks, dirt and bathroom tiles. The waste dumped in early January. Security vision showing a heavy vehicle near the property. Residents later discovered documents from a Sydney high school in the piles, but it's yet to be confirmed the material comes from an education department site. It's claimed the illegal dumpers cut a chain on a gate and broke in.
It's disgusting. It's like to do this to someone's property and for them to save and make a few extra bucks and actually cost the homeowner a lot more.
The Environment Protection Authority is investigating the incident. The Education Department saying it will have the site cleaned up. The Education Department has already been at this site to assess it. The clean-up expected to take place in coming weeks.
A crucial section of the Great Western Highway in the Blue Mountains will stay closed for at least 3 months following a major collapse. Extra rail and transport services have been organised, but the closure has infuriated thousands of residents in the state's west. Kimberly Lambourne has the story.
Good afternoon. On the edge of the Blue Mountains, Victoria Pass between Mount Victoria and Lithgow is crumbling. Just over a week ago, Transport for New South Wales crews found cracks in the road, prompting specialist engineers to inspect the site and find it unsafe for travel. Today, Roads Minister Jenny Aitchison announced the critical section of the major highway will remain closed for at least 3 months.
We are talking about significant geological movement in this site that has been happening over the last few months. And I understand the frustration and anger in this community. The
closure causing chaos for locals in the Blue Mountains and Central West regions, also shutting down a critical freight corridor.
We will continue to make sure that the diversions are maintained well and are fit and serviceable for the people in the months ahead.
Motorists are being rerouted along Bell's Line of Road, potentially adding hours to commutes to and from Sydney. Drivers are being urged to plan ahead for any trips across the mountains with diversions in place.
Rabbitohs legend Nathan Merritt has revealed he's been diagnosed with 2 forms of stage 4 cancer. The 42-year-old father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer in November, and last month doctors told him he has liver cancer as well. The Bunnies icon is undergoing chemotherapy and says it was a tough pill to swallow, but is vowing to fight through it. Princess Kate has made a rare reference to her cancer diagnosis during a visit with the Prince of Wales to London's famous Borough Market. The pair tried their hand at pouring beer and making coffee with mixed results. Europe correspondent Ben Downey reports.
Well, for everybody who's been to the UK, you know you can literally throw a rock and hit a pub named after something royal. The King's Arms, the Queen's Head, the Prince of this, the Royal of that. But for all of that royal nomenclature, this is one of those very rare occasions where we actually have working members of the royal family behind the bar. The Prince and Princess of Wales today getting stuck into the brewing business at London's famous Borough Markets, with William loading hops into the mixture and Kate climbing the ladder, donning gloves and using a large wooden stick to stir the boil before performing that rite of passage so many Australian 20-somethings have on their working holiday, pulling a pint. After their efforts, the founder offered them some weekend shifts, judging the royal couple's pouring better than his own. Kate politely declined the work and a sip of their brew, revealing she's actually cutting back on alcohol since her cancer diagnosis. Finally, the princess was given a crash course in creating the perfect cappuccino from a barista. But when she told Prince William she'd made him a coffee, well, he knocked it back because it wasn't decaf. The barista clearly forgetting to tell Princess Kate the golden rule: always remember your partner's coffee order.
Coming up after the break, one of America's biggest synagogues targeted in a violent attack. A convicted ISIS supporter opens fire at a US university. See the video of an attempted assassination, the shooter missing at point-blank range. NASA's plan to get back on the moon, now back on track, and the job cuts putting Australia's climate change research at risk.
We're connecting you when big news breaks in every street, every suburb, every day.
7 News has been sent this exclusive vision.
When you see something Sydney needs to know about, share it with 7 News Sydney on email or text. 7 News Sydney, live at 6.
The US has been rocked by an attack on one of the biggest synagogues in the country. Federal investigators are probing if it was an act of terror. A driver, believed to be armed with a rifle, rammed a vehicle into the building while children were inside attending school. US correspondent Miley Hogan has the details.
Police say the driver rammed through the doors of the synagogue and was then speeding down a hallway. Armed guards that were already on scene managed to open fire on the suspect, who was later found dead inside the vehicle. The cause of death is not known because at some point the car erupted into flames, sparking a large fire that spread through the building. Investigators have brought in the bomb squad to determine if explosives were in the vehicle. All of the 140 children inside the school and the daycare were evacuated and are safe. The staff too. One security guard was taken to hospital but is expected to be okay. Authorities are treating this as a targeted attack but say it's too early to determine a motive.
We are leading the investigation right now as a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. I would not be able to provide additional information at this time on the subject or his motive.
The Temple of Israel is located outside of Detroit, Michigan. The local sheriff saying since the war with Iran began, they've been coordinating with law enforcement at all levels.
We've been talking for 2 weeks about the potential, sadly, of this happening, so there was no lack of preparation.
The president commenting on the investigation.
It's a terrible thing, but it goes on. We're going to be right down to the bottom of it. It's absolutely incredible that things like this happen.
Security has been ramped up at all Jewish facilities in the area as police continue to hunt for a motive.
American authorities are investigating a fatal shooting at a Virginia university as an act of terrorism. The shooter opened fire in a classroom at Old Dominion University, killing one person and injuring 2 others. A group of students helped subdue him and killed him before authorities arrived. Police have revealed the suspect has previously been convicted of providing material support to ISIS and allegedly tried to gather weapons for an attack in the US in 2016. Security video has captured the moment an Indian politician survives an assassination attempt at point-blank range. Former Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah was attending a wedding in India-administered Kashmir when the suspect approached and fired. The gunshot missed and the suspect was quickly apprehended. NASA's next launch to the moon is back on track. The space agency is preparing to roll the Artemis 2 rocket back to its launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center next week after repeated delays.
As early as April 1st, and we are working toward that date.
Artemis 2 is designed to send 4 astronauts on a trajectory around the moon, marking the first such human mission in more than 5 decades. Still ahead on 7's afternoon news, 2 teenage e-bike riders dead after a head-on crash in Queensland. A community rallies behind a delivery man forced out of retirement. In sport, with Matt White, the Eels stun the reigning premiers in a barnstormer led by a future Bronco. And Scotty's still got it on one of golf's most famous holes. That's next.
From petrol to power, with fuel prices surging and war in the Middle East escalating, ditching the Bowser for the battery.
50% uplift over the past 2 weeks.
7 News investigates which models are worth it, which ones aren't, and the real money you could save. On 7 News at 6.
Hello, tonight in 7 News, rules relaxed. The plan to stop petrol stations running dry. Shots fired during a brawl in Sydney's West. Cancer shock, Rabbitohs legend Nathan Merritt reveals a devastating diagnosis. The major road out of Sydney that's going to be closed for months. And Qantas to pay customers millions over its COVID credit scandal. That's 7 News at 6.
Sport now with Matt White. Matt, it is all going wrong for the Broncos.
This was not part of the plan for Michael Maguire, year 2 at the Brisbane Broncos. You can be rest assured. It was a game last night where 72 points were scored, but the defending premiers ended up on the wrong side of that scoreboard for their second straight defeat. It was a wild game of footy. 12 tries scored at Suncorp Stadium last night. Both teams showed brilliance in attack but struggled in defence as Parramatta fought from 16 points down to win 40-32. Eels 5'8" Jonah Pezzett tore his future club apart with 4 try assists and scored the sealer himself. His coach is trying to keep down expectations though.
He's a work in progress and we knew that he was when he came to the club. Well, really pleasing for him. He's also got some areas of his game that we want to keep working hard on. So.
Meanwhile, Brisbane skipper Adam Reynolds is at long odds to face the Storm in next Friday's grand final rematch after suffering a rib injury last night. The Sharks are backing their star halves pairing to fire again tomorrow night against the Panthers in Bathurst. After copping a fair share of criticism in the past, Nico Hines and Braden Trindle are looking to replicate their red-hot round 1 performance against the Gold Coast Titans.
It's a good sign, but there's a long way to go. And then, you know the narrative, as soon as you don't have a good performance, you know it's coming.
In other team news, the West Tigers have re-signed halfback Adam Dewey until the end of 2029. And Craig Bellamy says Zach Lomax shouldn't have been lost to rugby league after his defection to rugby union that was announced this week.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame we lost him. I think we've lost one hell of a player, to another code. And we didn't really have to, but even more important, we lost a really good person to it, in our code.
The former Eels winger joined the Western Force and will look to play in next year's Rugby World Cup after his bid to join the Storm fell through. The Sydney Swans are wary of underestimating the wounded Brisbane Lions at the SCG tomorrow night. The Swans are flying high after their dominant opening round win over Carlton. Brisbane lost their opener to the Bulldogs and head south, missing a quarter of their premiership-winning team.
I'm not sure it's ever a good time to get them, but I think if the same thing happened to us, you'd be encouraging the next man up.
Last night, Carlton held on to beat Richmond by 4 points in the AFL. Mercedes' George Russell is proving why he is the hot favourite to take out his first Formula One title this year. It's only early days, but after winning in Melbourne, the Brit was fastest in first practice in China today, ahead of teammate Kimi Antonelli. The drivers, though, are still getting used to the new regulations.
Is giving them too much speed for Charles Leclerc as he heads off into the gravel.
Oscar Piastri was 4th fastest behind his McLaren teammate Lando Norris. And more than 2 decades since making his name at golf's unofficial 5th major, Adam Scott came agonisingly close to acing the famous Island Green 17th at TPC Sawgrass in the Players' Championship this morning.
Whoa!
That was magnificent.
As you do, Angie. A double bogey, though, on the last spoiled Scott's opening round. Finishing even par, he is 5 shots off the lead. So tonight in Rugby League, one of the great rivalries in footy, Roosters versus Rabbitohs. Latest team news coming up at 6 o'clock as well.
All right, we look forward to it. Thank you, Matt. Coming up after the break, no fuel, no fish. How rising fuel costs could reel in seafood supply. A mammoth clean-up effort begins as Queensland floodwaters recede. A Queensland homeowner left sour when a front yard thief hits her lemon tree. And a fresh drop for Tigers fans on the hill.
Tomorrow on Weekend Sunrise, is AI about to steal your job? Who's safe and who's not, as companies cut thousands? Plus, Australia's own Queen gets a royal welcome, where you can see Queen Mary and King Frederick on their historic tour. And Josh Pike joins us for a Brekkie TV exclusive performance, tomorrow from 7 a.m.
Live from Sydney, this is 7 News with Angie Asimus.
Welcome back. These are our top stories on 7. Iran's assault on world oil is continuing, striking more boats as the war claims more lives and an American plane crashes. Australia will draw on fuel reserves, hoping to fix shortages caused by the conflict. Asbestos dumped at a Leppington property is under investigation with potential links to a New South Wales high school. A collapse has closed one key road to the state's west, funneling Blue Mountains through one road. And Qantas has agreed to settle a class action over the COVID flight credits with a payout for affected customers. Returning to the war in the Middle East, where Iran's new supreme leader has issued his first statement, although he's still not been seen, while the US is investigating what caused the crash of an Air Force jet over Iraq.
U.S. Central Command is saying the KC-135 refueling aircraft went down in friendly airspace in western Iraq, that it was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire, and rescue efforts are ongoing. All as Iran is unleashing new attacks on oil tankers, this fuel-laden ship bursting into a fireball. Part of Iran's strategy to drive up oil prices by stopping tankers from passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
They've got no Navy, they've got no Air Force, they've got no anti-air traffic, anything. They have no systems of control. We're just riding free range over that country. And now we're going to look very strongly at the Straits. The Straits are in great shape. We've knocked out all of their boats.
On Iranian state media, a presenter reading what she said was the first message from Iran's new supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, who said the lever of closing the Strait of Hormuz must still be used. But neither his image nor his voice were broadcast. And Iran isn't only lashing out at sea. New video showing a high-rise in Dubai hit by an Iranian drone. And fires raging after an Iranian strike on a fuel depot in Bahrain. It's all leaving Iran increasingly isolated. 135 nations voted at the UN to condemn Iran for its attacks on Gulf countries and Jordan. But Iran does have one ally that has joined it in open war, the Lebanese militia Hezbollah, firing more than 100 rockets at Israel. And Israeli troops have crossed into Lebanon to battle Hezbollah. Nearly 700 people have been killed so far, according to the Lebanese government, with more than 800,000 displaced.
Increased fuel prices are putting pressure on Australia's seafood industry, with many having to make tough decisions to keep their businesses afloat.
I mean, we try and keep our prices as fair as possible, but if this doesn't slow down, we're definitely going to have to review prices. If it's out of control, really think about if it's worth going to work or not.
As well as increased prices on fish and other seafood in the run-up to Easter, it could mean less stock on shelves. 2 men have been shot during a large brawl in Western Sydney overnight. Police say up to 15 people were gathered on a street at Chester Hill when guns were fired and the group suddenly scattered. Andrew Denny has more.
Well, police say it was here at Everleigh Park in Chester Hill that 2 brothers were shot during an argument between groups last night. The sound of up to 5 gunshots and then vehicles speeding away captured by security cameras. One of those cars was a black Audi. It was pulled over by police a few blocks away. Officers boxing the vehicle in before a passenger emerges, clearly injured, clutching at his upper thigh. Police say inside were a 22 and 24-year-old men, Abdullah and Mohammed Zraika, both suffering minor gunshot wounds.
The information I have at the moment is that they both received non-life-threatening injuries. Still to be determined how many firearms were used.
Forensic officers spent hours gathering evidence at the park last night and again today, also towing away vehicles. Detectives saying the injured pair are known to police and officers are now trying to determine whether whether it was a planned attack on them or simply a bloody end to an argument that got out of hand.
We have received some information indicating they have links to organised crime. The identities of all those people are still being investigated, and the reason for the meeting is not yet determined.
Now we'll have more on this shooting and the hunt for those responsible in 7 News coming up tonight from 6 o'clock.
A senior constable has been charged with high-range drink driving after a crash in the state's west. Police say the off-duty officer allegedly returned a blood alcohol reading of 0.232 after hitting another car in Dubbo. That's 4 times the legal limit. He's had his licence suspended and his employment status is now being reviewed. The 31-year-old is due in court next month. 2 teenage e-bike riders have been killed in a head-on collision with a motorcycle in Logan. As Michael Hammond reports, police are investigating who, if anyone, was at fault.
Good afternoon. The Forensic Crash Unit is working to piece together the moments these 2 teenagers were killed here at Greenbank. Just after 9 last night, a Harley-Davidson motorcycle overtook a car along Middle Road. That's when it's ploughed into an e-bike travelling in the opposite direction without its headlights on. A 15-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy were thrown from the e-bike. Both died at the scene. The rider of the motorcycle was taken to the PA hospital with serious injuries. Nearby residents heard the impact.
It's just an almighty thud, and then you heard the screaming.
It's just a tragedy. It's wrecked a few families. I feel for the poor bugger that's hit them, and I feel for the parents of both the young people that were killed.
Queensland is currently considering tougher rules for e-bikes, with age restrictions and licensing now on the table as safety concerns grow. South Australia and Western Australia already ban under-16s from riding the devices. A licensing scheme would be an Australian first. Authorities say too many riders are ignoring the rules or modifying bikes to go faster.
We'll act swiftly to ensure that we address the shortfalls that exist in the legislation as it stands right now.
Experts say these latest deaths are a stark reminder as to why a crackdown is so desperately needed.
A teenager is dead and 3 people are injured after an attempted carjacking went horribly wrong in Melbourne's west. As Geordie Wright reports, up to 7 teens were in a stolen car when it rolled at high speed with fatal consequences.
It's taken major collision detectives more than 12 hours to process the scene of this fatal collision here in Hoppers Crossing. Investigators have now confirmed it was a 15-year-old boy who had died during the collision after he was thrown from the Skoda. It occurred on Derrimut Road just before midnight. Police say the stolen Skoda was travelling at 180 k's an hour and had up to 7 teenagers inside when the driver lost control. Just prior to the crash, it's alleged the group attempted to carjack another vehicle and were chasing it down the road. That's when the Skoda crashed into 2 other vehicles. A Ford Falcon was spun off the road and a Ford Ranger also struck. Those drivers incredibly walking away with only minor injuries.
This is a shocking circumstance that could have resulted in multiple fatalities. All occupants of this vehicle that we now know aged between 14 years of age and 16 years of age.
2 16-year-old girls were taken to hospital, but witnesses say 4 teenagers ran from the car.
Pretty gutless, to be honest. You know, there's people that are injured, people that are potentially deceased.
A teenage boy was tracked down by the dog squad and arrested at Pacific Werribee. A 14-year-old who allegedly fled self-presented at hospital after the fatal crash. All are currently being questioned. Family of the 15-year-old boy have come down to the scene today. They are devastated and still can't quite comprehend how this tragedy happened.
Married at First Sight's relationship expert Mel Schilling has shared an update on her colon cancer battle. The disease has spread to her brain. The psychologist shared the devastating news this morning, saying, "My light is starting to fade, but I am still here fighting and surrounded by the most incredible love." Her message to fans was, if something doesn't feel right, get it checked out. It might just save your life. A search is continuing near Bundaberg this afternoon for a man fallen overboard from a houseboat near the mouth of the swollen Burnett River. As Mel Whiteman reports, the big clean-up is underway as residents return to their flooded homes and businesses.
Here in Bundaberg, there's a mix of raw emotions and frustration as people survey the aftermath and begin the clean-up. The costs are rising as the floodwaters recede. The Mud Army has moved in to help hundreds of businesses and homeowners who have lost so many of their belongings. The damage to 14 homes is so severe residents can't return. Among those needing to be rescued at the height of the flood emergency, a dog and his owner plucked to safety by a swiftwater rescue crew. At Burnett Heads, a major search is continuing for a man who fell from a houseboat near the river mouth overnight. Water police, marine rescue, drones and a helicopter are scanning the river, the banks and the coast.
We have grave fears for this person's life. We are searching feverishly to try and locate him.
In Chinchilla, major flooding is starting to ease, but in Longreach, the community is bracing for a wall of floodwaters on the way.
We've got boots on the ground there, door knocking and sandbagging.
Tourism operators in Bundaberg have reported losing an estimated $250,000 in income so far. The clean-up could take months, but the spirit on display from groups like the volunteer firefighters will help get the community through another tough time.
Dozens of positions have been cut from the CSIRO's climate modelling teams and environment research unit. Staff yesterday were told 102 full-time positions will be cut from the unit. The cuts could affect research across the country into the impacts of climate change on Australia's environment and agricultural viability. In case you needed another reason to visit the 8th wonder of the world, Sydney Brewery have launched a brand new beer to celebrate the West Tigers' first game of the season at Leichhardt Oval.
And if we are lucky enough to finally crack it for the top 8, well, we'll be able to crack open a Leichhardt lager when we cheer the team on to victory here when they're qualifying for the finals.
The aptly named Leichhardt Lager will debut tomorrow at the West Tigers season opener against the North Queensland Cowboys at Leichhardt Oval. Still ahead in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, the great lemon tree heist caught on camera. We explain why this woman overstepped her mark. And a payout to Qantas customers over the COVID flight credits, who's included in the compensation. And it is 21 degrees in the city. We'll have your full forecast soon.
From petrol to power, with fuel prices surging and war in the Middle East escalating, ditching the Bowser for the battery.
50% uplift over the past 2 weeks.
7 News investigates which models are worth it, which ones aren't, and the real money you could save. On 7 News at 6.
Well, you can wait for life to give you lemons, or you can just take them. That's what one Queensland resident has decided to do, repeatedly caught stealing from her neighbour's yard. Typically, if fruit overhangs the fence onto council land, it is fair game, but on private property, it's stealing. Police say the lemon thief could face charges if there's a complaint. This year's Blues Fest has been called off. Staff told the Byron Bay Music Festival will no longer go ahead just 3 weeks before its first day. Last year's event was originally meant to be its last, but with the government lifeline, organisers managed a 2026 lineup. The $500,000 lifeline clearly wasn't enough, though, with poor ticket sales proving the final straw. It was a quiet end to what's been another volatile week for the local share market. Here's James Towell from ING Bank with more.
Good afternoon. The local share market wrapped up a turbulent week on a relatively steady note, with the ASX 200 finishing little changed for the day, down just 12 points or a little over 0.1%. But looking through the week, the market still lost more than 2.5% and is now down a little over 6% since the start of the Middle East conflict around 2 weeks ago. The technology and financial sectors were the key source of support today, led by gains from the big 4 banks, and this helped offset weaker moves across a number of mining and healthcare stocks. One of the most notable laggards today was Northern Star, which slid 18% after the gold miner flagged that it's unlikely to meet its own full-year production target set just a few months ago in January. And after touching its highest level since June of 2022 earlier this week, the Australian dollar has eased back, now buying around 70.6 US cents.
Sydney's 6 p.m. news is coming up shortly. Michael Usher's here. Michael, what's on the program?
Hello there, Angie. Well, here's what you and I will have tonight. More on the government's decision to dip into our emergency fuel supplies, the push to keep Bowsers flowing as the Iran crisis drags on, how much is available and what that is going to mean for drivers right across Sydney. Plus, how skyrocketing diesel prices could affect the Easter seafood catch. A vicious brawl leads to two brothers being shot. That was at Chester Hill. Security video capturing the aftermath, one man limping away. Out of action for months, the very costly problem that sealed off one of the biggest roads out of Sydney. Also tonight, asbestos illegally dumped on a Leppington doorstep, and you will not believe where it all came from. Demand for electric vehicles soars, why drivers are making the switch en masse. And here's a cute one. Sydney Zoo favourite Quincy the Quokka makes a trip north of the border in search of romance, believe it or not, Angie. So I'll join you at the desk for Sydney's 7 News at 6 o'clock. I'll see you then.
Yeah, I'll look forward to some company then. Thank you, Michael. Well, eating, drinking and other activities are the most dangerous distractions for drivers, according to a new study. University of Canberra researchers used a driving simulator to study which distraction caused the most harm. Participants received phone calls, talked, looked at text messages and other activities. The study found manual distractions like eating and drinking had the worst impact on drivers' attention and ability to respond. Compensation will be paid to Qantas customers over the handling of COVID flight credits. A class action's been settled, costing the Flying Kangaroo more than $100 million.
If your Qantas flight was cancelled during COVID, you are automatically included in the class action and will be compensated for the airline's restrictive handling of refunds and credits. The 2.5-year class action has just wrapped up, Qantas agreeing to pay $105 million to customers.
This is compensation through the class action, which is in addition to the refunds that people either have now received or are entitled to get from Qantas.
It was argued Qantas should never have issued credits for flights cancelled in COVID. Instead, we should have been refunded for flights between January 2020 and November 2022.
Exact amounts people will get will depend on the registration process, because the more people that come forward, the more people share in the $105 million.
Qantas had put aside $55 million for this, but the final amount was almost double.
But in terms of how big an impact this is for Qantas, it certainly hasn't dented their profits too poorly.
The share price today pretty stable. Investors were aware of the impending hit. The airline eventually got rid of expiry dates on COVID credits, something Virgin hasn't done. About $90 million of COVID credits with that airline expires June 30.
Next in 7's afternoon news, see the video of an elderly delivery driver that broke hundreds of hearts, an outpouring of support for a 78-year-old forced out of retirement. And I'll bring you the latest forecast across Sydney and around the country.
We're connecting you when big news breaks in every street, every suburb, every day.
7 News has been sent this exclusive vision.
When you see something Sydney needs to know about, share it with 7 News Sydney on email or text. 7 News Sydney, live at 6.
Hello, tonight in 7 News, rules relaxed. The plan to stop petrol stations running dry. Shots fired during a brawl in Sydney's west. Cancer shock. Rabbitohs legend Nathan Merritt reveals a devastating diagnosis. The major road out of Sydney that's going to be closed for months. And Qantas to pay customers millions over its COVID credit scandal. That's 7 News at 6.
Time to check the weather forecast now. Earlier clouds have cleared across Sydney this afternoon, but despite a bit more sunshine, it remained quite cool due to southerly winds. The city recorded a top of 23 late in the day, close to 3 p.m, and it is still sitting on 23 now. Across the suburbs, a mild day on the coast especially, a top of 21 at Cronulla, Mascot and Terry Hills, 23 for maximum at Liverpool. Richmond managed a top of 24. Checking the satellite image, a trough will continue to track up the central coastline this evening, bringing that cool southerly change in its wake. Over the weekend, though, high pressure will dominate, allowing for mostly settled conditions. Around the nation for tomorrow, Brisbane fine, 27 degrees forecast. Canberra is looking sunny and warm, 25. Looking good for Melbourne as well, top of 24. Hobart clear, 23. Blue sky for Adelaide, 27. Perth looking partly cloudy, 30. Unsettled in Darwin and 29. Back in the city centre, a low of 18 on the way, top of 25. No rain, but it will be an overcast start to the weekend. Sunday, we see a little bit more sunshine, warmer too, 27 in the city, 29 in our west. Monday, also looking nice and settled and warm up there in the 30s. Tuesday, a passing shower late in the day, then more frequent showers for Wednesday, Thursday and into Friday as well. A woman in the US has made a heartwarming effort to help her elderly delivery driver. Brittany Smith was heartbroken when she saw 78-year-old Richard struggling to deliver her order in Tennessee. She found out he's been forced out of retirement and launched a GoFundMe for him. Since then, the love and support have poured in, with more than $500,000 raised to help Richard and his wife.
Any pretty lady can give me a hug.
And that is our 4 p.m. news for this Friday. Our next bulletin is 7 News at 6. I'm Angie Asimus. Stay with 7 now for the Chase Australia. Thank you for your company.